You're gonna have to do that again, Sean. There was an error, but you are live now.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for jumping in and joining us for another episode of Talk Forum, where we discuss issues that are of paramount importance to us, whether it be the city or in your social life or what have you. We address these issues that are of concern. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sean Spalding.
I'm Shauna Whittingham. Welcome to tonight's episode.
Kim Bankoff. Looking forward to our guest here, or that way.
And we have a special guest tonight.
Yes.
I'm Derek Olivier. I'm running for Parkland City Commissioner for District 2.
Thank you so much, Derek, for being here with us. We appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. And I know firsthand how busy that schedule is this
Yes,
week.
you do. Yeah, Shauna's actually been coming out to help out a little bit every now and then too when she can. So I definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So tonight's episode, Sean mentioned that we talk about everything and anything. Some of our topics are very heavy. Of late, they've been very heavy, right, guys?
Yeah, pretty. I think that's the trend.
I think after the election, we're going to have to come up with something fluffy and light. But tonight's episode, we are focusing on the vote, your vote. Does it count? And why do so many Americans actually don't go out to vote? On average, or historically, 40% of Americans do not go out to vote. So we kind of wanted to just start out tonight's program with a brief history lesson as to where we were then or how it got started and where we are now, because unfortunately some of the same tactics still exist today. And then we want to get into a conversation with Derek. We have some very generic questions for you and then some very specific questions for you. So does anybody want to take it away, or do you want me to go for it?
Yeah, I think I can take it. So the while this show is largely centered around Derek Oliver and his bid for commissioner in Parkland's District 2, I think a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing are around issues that affect people in Parkland itself and wherever they may live elsewhere. Because some of these issues affect everyone. Some certain things like campaign finance, issues like police and how law enforcement plays into your daily life where you live. Issues like businesses and business health in your city and the sustainability in your city. Some of these things are, they're very important and they're not limited only to Parkland, but in starting out and addressing voting and how important voting is, I think it's important to stress how voting rights itself has been a long, hard fought right that many people in this country have fought for. It wasn't just granted. A lot of blood, sweat, and I'm addressing it from that angle because personally, I think we've reached a point right now where there are people that have felt an air of resignation because they see that so many things have gone awry from the top down, from the president all down into Congress, into their local government, where they don't see anything happening. They see grown people acting like they don't think they have a voice, and they've just gotten complacent and said, well, my vote doesn't count. And I think it's crucial in acknowledging the fact that every vote does count without getting into the specifics as to how they count. Every vote does count. And everyone needs to go out and mobilize and get out there. So I tip my hat to you, Derek, because we're talking to you while you're out at the polls. And Shauna was alluding also to her putting in time at the polls, also helping out. So whichever way you sit on the aisle, getting out there and making that known, the importance of voting, I think it's crucial.
Yeah, I would actually just say that it's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, but you recognize what it's for. We all have to kind of do our part to kind of make this country a better place, and I think it's important that if you have a voice, you use it, and I'm trying to use mine. So
Nice.
yeah, I feel like I'm on location. Like I feel like I'm a news anchor. So.
You are. Back to you, Greg.
I just need like a bush or something to fly by me and be like,
Jimmy, you want to
in
you
Florida, so.
I'm so impressed that, Derek, you're out there and you're going for it and you're doing it because, we talk, I've been, I would call myself an engaged person in the political process most of my life. When we talk about voting rights, I fully recognize that, women, right, only, or I guess, what was the year? I had it over here
1964,
for 1964. Yeah. So it's crazy to me that something that was so hard for, to your point, Sean, not just for Black folks or even we have so many voting suppression, so much voter suppression going on. Someone who's been convicted of a felony, right, still in some states can't vote. So I mean, there's, on top of that, as a woman, we do have the right. It was fought for. And I feel a sense of respect towards those that fought for it, and to not exercise my right to vote, I feel would be just such a slap in the face to those women. And my family, 4 generations ago, migrated to America for all the wonderful things that this country brings. And the foundation of that, what makes us America, is voting and having a voice and a say in what happens at the federal level, at the state level, at our county level, at our city level. So the fact that you're jumping in, Derek, and you're going for it, and you want to represent, and you have ideas and thoughts on ways to make things better and change things for the good. I just think I'm so impressed by that, because it's not easy to get out there and go for it. And I know there were some things you mentioned, in some of your videos online about the campaign process. So I think it's one, tonight we're talking about how important it is to vote, and I hope everybody does, and we'll talk more about that. But I would kind of like to hear a little bit about your experience jumping in. Is this the first time you're running for public office? And then what's that been like?
Yeah, so first off, yes, this is my first time running. I think that the challenge is that in addition to being a new candidate, I adopted a different perspective because of my personal beliefs. One of my platforms is that I want to take money out of politics in general. So I didn't accept any campaign donations. One of the tough things about being a new candidate is that money plays a role in everything in life. And if you not have a lot of money and you don't want to kind of accept donations, you're put at a disadvantage from the jump. And also another part of it is the fact that different parties, support different parties. I'm actually an independent, and so I've always been independent. And the thing about it is that, there are systems set up in place to push candidates forward, regardless of their credibility, regardless of their capability. And those things are disappointing. But I think the problem is that not enough of us have stepped up to share our voice. And I think it takes a little courage, of course. But, like I said, I think your voice matters. And I think that's what propelled me more than anything else, is that I know that I have a perspective, a very unique perspective, and I bring a lot of different things to the table that others don't. And I think we all have something special about us that we can bring to the table. And sometimes maybe we're not the person that, that can explain that or project that. So maybe you just support someone that does. But this process is pretty challenging. I mean, one thing is that, you're constantly being challenged, essentially, right? And everything that you say, everything that you do, from your opponent and also from other people. So you have to have, a thicker skin, they say, and that's part of it. It's part of the way it works. I'm from New York originally, so I might have a little thicker skin than most, but, at the end of the day, if you're really purpose driven, I think that, I'm a big man of faith as well. So I really believe that whatever is for you is for you. And if you take steps towards something, one of your goals and one of the things you want to achieve in life, God will back you up. And I heavily believe in that. And it's kind of propelled me as well. It helped me to kind of overcome some of my concerns about starting out and some of my thoughts in starting out. But because I'm a non-traditional candidate, like I said, I didn't go out there raising money. I actually campaigned, but I campaigned on my own dollar. And
Right.
you know, so I'm putting in about a little bit more than $10,000 in this
wow.
race.
Right.
And the thing about it is I didn't spend it all though, so you know I might get some of that back. But
So we actually want to circle back to that because we have a question. But I kind of just I met you, what was it, four years ago. We both live in the vicinity, and we started a group, just networking and supporting each other in the community. So I had the pleasure to meet Derek a number of years ago, and so when I saw that he was running and checked out what he was representing, I have to say, typically when I vote, I'm voting against a candidate. I'm not voting for. However, on the local level, and Derek, I am voting for you. I voted for you. I come out and I campaign for you, and I stand behind what you represent 100%. So I do want to also say, on behalf of all of us, thank you. We understand it takes guts. We understand it takes stamina. We understand it takes money. So we need to come back to the money conversation in a minute. But, you know, one of the conversations we had was why did you decide to run? I think I shared with you, I have a love-hate because I love politics, but a lot of times what you have to sacrifice to get, you even said one of the things, which is you're constantly being challenged, and that can be draining. But why did you decide to do this?
So for me, I've never been interested in politics. Honestly, like I had no desire. I wanted to build my real estate career, and that was my plan. I always wanted, like I grew up in New York. I remember as a kid walking to Manhattan. I always wanted to own one of the skyscrapers as a little kid. That's my whole desire in life, right? So, but what happened this year is I was blessed with our first child. His name is Lucas, and he is everything to me, of course, like any first child would be to someone. But seeing the world fall apart around me and seeing everything happen with the social unrest and all these other things, I just felt you needed a voice of unity. You needed a voice that can step up and play a role to kind of help heal some of the issues with the country. And I knew who I was. Like I've always been a person of service. I actually volunteer on my birthday. The morning of my birthday, I go out to different organizations in South Florida and volunteer my time, just because I just believe that, you know, there's so many people out there hurting, and I think it's incumbent upon us to do something. I mean, every little piece, and that's the thing about voting too. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that, but every little thing you do matters in this world. And I think that you never know how you may push somebody. I've had situations in life where, you know, I might have said something to somebody in a moment when they were really feeling down, and they came back to me maybe years later saying, you know, you said something to me that always made me feel, you know, that I can get through it, and thank you for it. And it was nothing to me. Like, it was not a big deal to me because I was like, listen, I believe in you, or whatever the situation was, because I was being sincere. But to them, it meant the world. And those little things that you do in life can make such an impact. And I think we have a tendency to want the full extent of whatever we want now, as opposed to understanding that it takes time to build. So little pieces, little attempts over time can build something very great. So that's my real reason of running, is just because of my son, and seeing everything that's happening lately has just been so disappointing. But I mean, there's a lot of hope in it as well, with the fact that, you know, you see so many people of different races and cultures out there supporting each other during some of the protests and some of the other things. Those things do warm my heart. So I think there's a lot of hope left in what we can achieve if we just start focusing on it and working together to get it done.
Fantastic.
Thank
Thank you for sharing that. But Derek, at this point, I'd like to dive into what you touched on earlier, right? Which is your views on campaign finance. So, you know, we know that finance and the monies that flow into run for office, wherever that may be, play a huge role, especially on larger stages. But my question is that if you're against campaign donations, wouldn't that place candidates lacking the requisite funds at a disadvantage when compared to those with the war chest? I mean, you mentioned $10,000, and to some people that may not be a lot. To some people, it may be, well, that's quite a bit of money. You follow me? It's all relative. But there's some that would like to affect change that don't have that $10,000 to affect any kind of run for office. So once you see that within a few years, you could create, in essence, a club where only candidates with the wherewithal need apply.
So yeah, just to touch on that, the thing about it is that for me, I don't believe in it. I think that, like I said, it's pretty much what's destroying our country in my eyes. All the money that's involved. There's a lot of aspects to it, and I know $10,000 is a lot of money to me too. I'm not like insanely rich or something. It's more of a matter of this is what I committed to it to get it done. And but what I'm trying to do is push Parkland in itself to understand that, listen, if we make a situation where candidates are forced to go and take money, you got to realize that people that give you money have agendas. They all have agendas. And the thing about it is they're not giving you money because they think you're a nice person. They're giving you, like, companies aren't giving you money because you're a nice person. They're giving you money because they want access. And personally, I want to take all that out. So what I want to do is, if we were to take money out of politics, we would level the playing field. Because now you're not going to have the people who are the cronies or the bureaucratic people coming into politics for the sole purpose of advancing their own personal agendas or advancing, their own careers. You're going to have people that really care, because if there's no money involved in it, and there's no benefits for the individual for trying and going through this. Because one thing I will tell you is this process is grueling. It's hard. So no one's going to do this unless there's a real benefit. And if someone's going to go and put forth the effort to do this, and they're not accepting campaign donations, and there's no favoritism going on here, it creates a situation where the individuals that will be running will be individuals that matter. And on top of that, you won't eliminate people who have the capability and wherewithal to get the job done right. So I think that if we remove that factor, you won't have individuals who don't have $10,000 or who don't have whatever money it is to invest in a race. You won't have them feeling like they're singled out because other people, let's say you do take campaign donations and there's someone else in the race that their parent or maybe their relative or whatever has so many connections that they can raise $100,000 for a local election or something like that. Even if you can take campaign donations and get money, you can't compete with that. So it's a situation where we need to level the playing field and make it so that politics then become a situation where people who have character, people who have desire to kind of make change and evoke change are the ones that are running for office.
The reason I push on it is because outside of Parkland, let's say Town A, USA, right? The what tends to happen generally is that those that are at and are on the receiving end of policies citywide that can affect their livelihoods tend to be the ones that can least afford any changes. So those would tend to be the ones that would want to engender change. So if they don't have that kind of funds, those kind of wherewithal to make a run, it just puts them at such a disadvantage. I would push and say, wouldn't it be better than to limit the amount of money that can be used from campaigns versus just eliminating campaign funds altogether? That way, it allows those who have zero funds going in, that allows them to at least procure some funds to affect a race worth having.
Well, yeah, no, I can understand a limitation put on it, or, I'm not totally steadfast on 100% elimination. However, I do think we have the technology right now that people can leverage through social media, through Zoom meetings, through other things of that nature, that we can structure something that makes more sense, where the money doesn't need to be a part of the conversation at all.
Jared, if I get another flyer in the mail,
yeah, exactly. And to be honest, the fact that you're picking your candidate based on a flyer they sent you is the disappointing part. Hundreds of Americans do that. And I think that, that's not going to tell you who the candidate is. I think having town hall meetings on Zoom and leveraging technology that's free, the means in which campaigns were done back in the 1920s and 40s, those times it made sense that you needed money involved because you needed to kind of get your name out there and figure things. We have technology now. There's the internet's there. The world's changing. We're closer than we ever been by way of telephone, by cell phone. I'm talking to you via cell phone right now. These are ways we can campaign. These are ways that we can do things if we structure it the right way, where money doesn't have to be involved at all. I mean, I think there is an argument for totally eliminating it. However, I believe in baby steps, and I totally get and understand the idea of making it so there's a limit on it or a cap on it, so that other people can kind of keep the system that we have established, but in a sense, make it more of a level playing field.
Kimmy, I know you have a question, but just two things. I want anybody who's watching, I just want to let you know that Derek is talking to us from the campaign site. And Derek, I want to ask you to see if maybe you could just shift directions, because the lighting now is casting a shadow, so we can't see your face.
He's not hiding, folks. He's not hiding.
Okay, go ahead, Kimmy.
No, I was just on this topic of campaign finance. It's the Supreme Court is such a hot, buzzword right now, but it really is so critical. And during the Obama administration, the Supreme Court actually ruled in favor of Citizens United, which really kind of took out. There's got to be a balance. So Sean, you're making great points, and Derek, I actually lean towards your view on this. I don't believe we should raise money so that people can compete with the billionaires. I think we need to bring it down so that anyone could be eligible to throw their hat in the race. And so it's unfortunate that the regulations were rolled back and that we have gotten into the corporate and special interest campaign finance world. And it'll probably take years to ever even turn back Citizens United. But I do think that it leads to the voter disenfranchisement that we're seeing. So when we think about, why more people aren't getting involved, I think they feel I can't do it. I can't compete with these, goober national candidates or these people who have the backing of, all the big businesses in my community. And then they feel like my voice doesn't matter because this whole voting thing, it's an elitist kind of society, and I don't maybe fit in, and I just think that it worsens people's views on how this all works, and this distrust of politicians and this general distrust of the entire system, because special interest now plays such a big role in what used to be a very localized personal thing, your personal relationship with your local candidates, with your city commissioners, with your city mayor, and I don't think we have that anymore. And most of America is made up of small towns. Even here in Broward County, we have a lot of small towns, and I don't know that people engage at that level that maybe they used to, and maybe we need to get back to.
So speaking of commissioner and mayor, what would your responsibilities as commissioner involve, Derek?
Okay, so the commissioner position is more of an executive level position. There's actually someone called the city manager who does handles most of the day-to-day activity, and you also have a lawyer on staff, as well as other people, clerks and stuff like that on staff. So the position of the commissioner, you're probably going to be mostly dealing with policy, creating new policy for the city, as well as just like figuring out the city's budget and approving the city's budget. The city manager does most of that stuff, but your job is just to kind of approve it and make sure that all the numbers are where they should be.
Okay, so commissioner, then, if I translating this correctly, is oversees a lot of policy issues within the city.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, they consider it a part-time position, but at the same time, you meet maybe twice a month in most cities. But it depends on how much effort you want to push forward to it. And I really am dedicated to getting some things I want to achieve. So I might be putting a little bit more time than most candidates.
Gotcha. Well, that the fact that you're overseeing a lot of policy, that's a keen interest to me, and I know to a lot of people watching. I tend to be like a policy wonk because I'm always into the kind of policies that affect our society and how we live and how we interact. So it leads me to the next question I'd like to ask you is that, so you're representing or would like to represent a city like Parkland. Now, with a city like Parkland, for those that are not aware, tends to be a very racially homogenous city, right? You do not typically reflect the typical resident of Parkland, right? The Parkland tends to move on, but in relationship to a lot of cities around the country, is very white Anglo demographic within Parkland. How do you propose for Parkland cities like this and others to reflect and engender more diversity in its makeup? Or do you think that's within your purview? Can you help to create more diversity within the city or awareness?
Yes, and that's actually one of the things I do want to kind of achieve. Well, what I'm proposing to do, I actually presented this to the commission, to the Parkland City Commission as well for the Parkland City Commerce Commission. I actually presented to them the idea of creating a diversity council. What I want to do is reach out to a lot of different organizations out there, just to kind of to try and see if we can get different members of their organization to be the heads of the council and advise us on best ways to approach it. One of the expressions I always use is the best way to tear down the wall is to open the front door. So I'd like to actually have individuals from different organizations in Parkland and in South Florida to come to Parkland and have a tour of Parkland and have the city have an initiative to help them tour Parkland and let them learn a little bit more about our city and break down some of the misconceptions as well as some of the conceptions that might be somewhat accurate, right? But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to get that is by communication and by allowing people to kind of see our city for what it is. I've been living here now for 5 years. I do love the city. I've met some amazing people, and you'd be surprised at the responses you get from people if you just open up and talk. And that's one of the things I do want to achieve as a diversity council. So that's one of the things that's on my agenda.
I think that's a great initiative. I think one of the reasons that we're at such odds across the country right now is because we don't share enough experiences. So the more that we can create experiences that everyone has skin in, where we live, I think we can start to foster that kind of empathy, that kind of knowledge on how people other than ourselves lives and how they see life. I think that's key to building a more just union without a bit corny.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But if not as a question, I did want to also follow up on another stance that you have. But I think Shauna, you had something you wanted to chime in.
No. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Derek, was you've also stated where you support Parkland creating a police force and not relying on the county police force, in this instance being so for its law enforcement. So how do you envision that helping citizens of Parkland with having its own police force?
Well, just like you said earlier, I think you guys mentioned it earlier. I really think that we've lost touch with the personal connection that we need to have, not with just our candidates, but also with the city, with our police force, with our firefighters. I think we need to get back to that. And I think with all the things that are happening in our country today, I think that having a smaller force where they know the residents and are breaking down some of the communication breakdowns that happens, I think we'll have a stronger opportunity to kind of have a connection that will prevent some of the things that we're seeing. With Parkland, currently BSO, we have a contract with BSO, and BSO, we pay them about $10.5 million every year with annual increases of $300,000 to $400,000. These increases will make it eventually where this cost is very unsustainable for Parkland. But what I will tell you is that a lot of people in Parkland also want a police force because they want to get back to the community policing that will create a situation where you know your officers. And one of the things with BSO, what I would say is they have some amazing officers, but just like with anything in life, you have some challenges. And what I will say is that with BSO, they have 2,800 personnel, and they also service 14 different cities. They're just way too big, and it's a situation where they're not giving Parkland everything that they need. There's a lot of things that's happened in Parkland over the last couple of years. I'm sure you guys are familiar with a lot of the things that has happened here. And I think that if we had our own police force with individuals that lived and resided in Parkland, we'd have a situation where in moments of crisis, they would be more apt to act. And then in addition to that, you know, people who are residents here, they've had some challenges when they're minorities. Some things have happened over the years that they've had some challenges with. If the police force is smaller and you had a situation where the actual commissioner, like myself, was involved, you had individuals you can really hold accountable to what's going on, and also creating a force that, you know, of people who understand the citizens of Parkland, understand the people of Parkland. You have a situation where those kind of things won't happen. You know, if John down the street is a police officer and I see John every day, you know, I see John walking his dog, or John sees me walking my dog, you know, he's not going to be apt to do anything if he pulls me over, right? There's going to be a situation where we'll talk and we'll figure it out. And if it's something I did wrong, then, you know, I deserve whatever happens. But in this, at the end of the day, it's a situation where we start building that bridge again between police force and citizens. And I think that's important. We don't have that in Parkland. It's been one of the complaints of many of the residents. I know BSO is taking steps to kind of correct that. However, in my eyes, I just don't believe in a big police force. I think we need something small that's personal, something that, you know, that the mayor, let me also further explain that there's a county police service that's provided, and then city police services are run by the mayor of that city. So there's a little bit more control over what happens and how things transpire in the city. And I just think that, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. And just to add to that, that personal touch and that communication, and I believe as well, I read this on your site, that should we transition to a local police force, we would also have some savings there to the tune of approximately $3 million a year. So not only from a community standpoint, but also financial, we might benefit from it. We used to have our own police force, and I'm not quite sure, so I won't speak to it here, why we did away with that. But I agree wholeheartedly. As a person of color, you know, I run the city almost every day, and some mornings I don't feel like running, but I feel it's my duty to my children to run around so that the citizens and residents and even police who police our area get accustomed to seeing people of color and not being intimidated, but just opening up that communication and getting to know each other.
I can actually speak to why we left the force we had before. The force we had back in 2004 and beyond was a situation where it wasn't accredited, it wasn't structured correctly. The police officers were actually acting as firefighters at the time as well. I don't know if you knew that. So a lot of the police officers that were a part of the organization, they didn't feel like it was fulfilling what they really objected to do. And in order to get the police force to where it needed to be, they needed to increase the amount of salary, the amount of pay to the police officers from, at the time it was only $2.5 million. They had to increase it up to about $4 million, which was a lot back then. We're paying 7.5, we're paying 10.5 right now to BSO, just to give you some perspective. But at the time, BSO was a lot more affordable. At the time, BSO was coming in at $3-something million, which made sense. So the transition made sense because BSO was organized. It was accredited, which is the biggest thing. It was accredited. And on top of that, you know, they were able to come step in day one and bring in what Parkland needed. So at that time, it made sense to transition over. But we're at a different time now where the cost of BSO is actually more expensive than having our own police force. And that $3 million that I mentioned could be used more effectively in so many different ways.
So tell us about some of the conversations going on over there at the polls. What are you seeing? What are you experiencing?
Well, the voters have been awesome. One thing I will say is that it's been a rough, you can speak to this too, probably. So it's been a rough couple of days. As you know, it's been torrential downpours all week long. And Monday was the worst. And we were here at 6 something in a Monday morning. We had a long line of voters, which was amazing. And then the torrential downpour came. All the candidates ran and the voters stayed in line. So it was very impressive. The voters in itself have been very warm. A lot of them actually have heard of my story, heard of my things I'm trying to achieve, and are supporting me. So I'm really excited about that. In addition to that, just, you know, seeing people come out here and the droves that they've been coming out has been impressive as well. So people have been very friendly. I've heard some other people telling me they've had some bad experiences, but I personally haven't had any yet. So everybody's been pretty awesome. I've had, some people just say no, thank you, and keep walking. That's the extent of what I've experienced so far.
It's interesting. You're out there tonight. You're probably going to see it get really scanty in a few, because at the time of this recording, this is the second. Tonight is going to be the second presidential debate, 2020, with the mics being muted. So it's going to make for very interesting watching tonight. So you're probably not going to see many people out there soon.
Yeah, I'm so excited about watching the debate. Of course, everybody on this call is going to watch it, so we have to trade notes. I do want to just throw in some information here, and I'm sure the number went up, but it's the biggest voter turnout in a long time. Since Saturday, we had over 26 million people turn out to vote. And also another huge stat is people of color ×6 more than before. Yes. So, and it goes back to something I said at the top of the show, is typically when I vote outside of local government, I'm voting against a candidate, because I never 100% agree with any particular agenda, or, it's what I like the least. I want to make sure that isn't going to take place. But this is a huge opportunity for us to get to talk to you, Derek, because we were talking before you had gotten on the line. This is the meat of the matter. This is where it goes down in local politics. So that position you're running for is huge. We lost Kimmy. The position you're running for is huge. And again, we commend you. It takes guts.
Well, thank you. Honestly, like I said, I think it takes not just me though. I definitely want to commend my wife, Renee. She has been awesome through this. I think one of the things about being a candidate is that what people don't understand is that there's a spouse at home, or there might be a significant other at home that is also enduring it, and it's probably harder for them, because I know personally, like if Renee's my wife, if Renee was running and someone was talking bad about Renee, I would be livid, and she feels the same way. So it's a situation where it's really hard to hear people not give 100% towards your spouse, and then on top of that, there's a lot of things going on at home that I'm not there to help with. So I definitely want to say, the person that probably needs more commending than me is her, because she's been my main support through this whole process. She's there when I'm tired to feed me. She's there when I
shout out to the support team.
Help me out, help me through it, and also motivate me when I'm pushing so hard and I'm feeling totally beat up. She's there to help me. So the wife and the spouse is always, or the significant other is always someone that I think is left out of the mix, but they deserve a lot of the credit as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, shout out to the support team, man, for real. They that's the backbone. That's the backbone. So I'm surprised you don't have her there with you now. She probably is glad for the fact that she don't have to be involved right now.
Well, if she's not out there, they have a little baby. He's all how?
We have a little baby.
That's right.
7-month-old little Lucas was born, so she's taking care of him. She does come out here though. She came out 3 times this week. Just with the rain and stuff, I just don't want her out here with with Lucas, and so if she could be out here, she definitely would. My mother-in-law came to help out, and some other family members as well. So she came.
You are a lucky man. Your mother-in-law is there helping you. You are a lucky man, sir. Good for you.
Yeah, he is loved. I was sharing with the team earlier, Derek, that at this particular site, I'm not talking about any other polling site. A lot of the candidates, including the 2 major parties, there are a slew of signs. There are tons of signs tucked in the floor, and something that's happening with you. You talk about taking the donations out of politics. You're not going crazy with the paraphernalia, with the, what's the word I'm looking for, the flyers, all of that. What you have are people who feel very passionate about what you're doing and that you're doing it. So me included, we are physically out there holding your signs. And I hope that people see and feel the passion behind that, because it's not just, I don't think I got one flyer in the mail from you. And thank you for that, because every day I'm throwing out like 30 freaking flyers. And to your point earlier, that's not how you get to know somebody. You literally talk to them, whether it's over Zoom or I've seen you out there as people go by talking to them and answering questions. So again, I would love to see the direction of the typical campaign change, and thanks for bringing it. It's changing.
I did.
I definitely think it is. I think it's an opportunity there for a lot of people. Like I said, it's more of a grassroots effort for me. I was knocking on doors. We had individuals who were going out there knocking on doors on my behalf. I know COVID was going on. They were doing social distancing at the same time. But those kind of things, I think, is just more of a personal situation that we should all be involved in politics personally. And I think it's an important way to kind of change the system if everybody were to really focus on those kind of things and not just the flyers and the other garbage that'll eventually just go into the trash anyway.
Derek, I did have a question in reference to what you mentioned earlier about promoting business in Parkland. And I know you'd said about you'd like to see more businesses and businesses being sustained within Parkland. And I know there are a lot of people that will be listening to this, and they can understand where that's coming from. In light of COVID, a lot of businesses have had to shut down. And even outside of COVID, before, we're going into a more digital landscape right now, where brick and mortar businesses are not on the rise. You have more people going towards a digital presence rather than a brick and mortar presence. So my question is, where do you, or how rather, do you see turning around that trend and bringing more businesses into Parkland, and how can that be replicated elsewhere?
Okay, that's a great question. As part of my platform is to really try and focus on business in Parkland. One of the things is it's two parts. It's sustainability as well as invitation, right? So the first part of it is when we first moved to Parkland, Renee and I, we noticed that like every single restaurant or business that we love would pretty much close its doors in roughly about 2 years. That was almost standard operating procedure. Actually, Shauna was mentioning that when we, back in about 4 years ago, we started an organization called Parkland B&G, Parkland Business Networking Group. I was one of the founding people of it. It was me. It was someone named Geneva Love, as well as Yakel Edwards. Yakel and Geneva kind of started it, and they brought me in, and I really believed in it. And we've been pushing it from back then. And we used to meet at actually a restaurant called the Bahama Grill on 441 in Parkland. That restaurant doesn't exist anymore. And it's in the span of 3 years. It's kind of the standard operating procedure out here in Parkland, where our vacancy levels are really low, and that's because every business wants to work in Parkland because of the economics of the residents. However, they end up closing their doors in 3 years. So we have to figure out a way to be sustainable first. And the way I project to do that is understanding the relationship of business and the city and with the city right now. In Parkland, if you go to the city's website, you'll notice that there is not a business section on the homepage, which I think is utterly ridiculous. Every single city in South Florida has a business section on the webpage. So we need to kind of go and one of the things I want to do is put a business section on the webpage as on the homepage. And then on top of that, have every single of one of our business owners have a profile on the website. We need to kind of promote them and then have a business of the week that we celebrate on the homepage. Every week we celebrate a new business owner in Parkland as a way to kind of help with that sustainability. They have a initiative right now in Parkland where they try to have people shop in Parkland, but I don't think that's enough. I think we need to do more for our business owners. I want to actually have an annual event of like a taste in Parkland or the best of Parkland, whatever you want to call it, where we celebrate our business owners and celebrate some of the restaurants and the businesses that we do have. So the sustainability portion of it is something that we need to focus on. With Parkland, we are a bedroom city is what we call ourselves because we don't really focus on on the commercial side, but we have commercial business here that we need to support. And one of the other issues is also the signage restrictions on 441. If you just go there, you'll notice that if you just drive down 441, around north of Holmberg, you'll notice that you can't even see that there are businesses there because we have a signage restriction, and we have a berm and tree height that we require from the commercial spaces. So it's a situation where a lot of the businesses are hurting. I actually, one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of business is because I owned a business. I've owned two businesses in my time. My first business I owned back in 2005. I started in 2005. It was a retail space over in Davie. I lost that business because of the crash in 2008. I saw my business go down in the span of roughly about 2 to 3 months, which was disheartening, and it really hurt me at the time when it happened. It devastated me. But right now, with COVID happening, a lot of our businesses are experiencing the same exact thing. So we need to step up as a city. And one of the things I wanted to kind of do is give PPE dollars to some of the businesses in Parkland through the CARES Act. A lot of other cities have already done it. Parkland actually just got the money. However, other cities got it a long time ago. So I don't know if I had an effect on that. No one will ever tell me. But this is something I've been pushing since June. So I'm glad that they finally got the money and things are working in that regard. But we need to do more and step up and do more. Now, in regards to the type of businesses I'd like to see here, I think what businesses add to the city is a communal space. The city of Parkland right now, we don't have a lot of places that we can socialize in. So we need more restaurants. I think we need more business space as well. Like you said, a lot of businesses are going digital. So why don't we have some office space in Parkland that makes sense? And we have some land that is unincorporated Broward that eventually might become part of Parkland. I want to make sure that land is utilized effectively to kind of help with some of the businesses that can make sense for Parkland. And what I will say is that not only is it good for the city to have businesses that function in Parkland, it's good for the residents because we have a communal space, and it's even better for the city because of the fact that businesses bring sales tax, and also that's a revenue driver for any city. So it's a win-win for everybody involved if the businesses are successful and do well, and if we are able to get some more commercial space that makes sense.
I have a very important question for you. Do you have a Chinese bank account?
No, and I don't have 400 million in debt either. No.
No, I think that's those initiatives are excellent. I think it should be commended because even the city where I live in Plantation, Florida. I think if more cities enacted some initiatives like that, I think would be a long way ahead. We always talk about it takes a nation, it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a city to raise a business, right? So we all need to come together and support each other. So the more hands we can have involved, to coin a phrase, rising tide, raising all ships. We all need to come together and really see that business can flourish, especially in these times. So yeah. Kudos to those.
There's simple fixes you can do. Like one of the things I really want to do too is Parkland hosts a bunch of different events on a monthly basis. Why don't we host those events in the shopping centers just to drive retail traffic to those stores? To those stores. Why don't we do that? Like, it's a quick fixes we can do that won't cost the city a lot of money, if any at all, and we can kind of help those and support those businesses out there.
Great, Kimmy. I think you had a question.
Well, I'm having technology issues, which I'm getting annoyed. But what's striking me is that tonight's topic around we tend to focus so much on these national and vice president, our senators, and just from tonight's conversation, I'm reminded. I hope our viewers realize that local elections are so important, if not more important, because look at all the things that Derek has covered tonight that truly impact your day-to-day experience, right? So what's happening at the federal government level doesn't necessarily, yes, it has an impact, absolutely. But in my day-to-day, they don't necessarily dictate which police the city chooses to use and what what practices they put in place. They don't dictate what our city governance is around, being business friendly, and that immediately affects your day to day. I mean, Derek, you mentioned restaurants, dining, and Taste of Parkland. I mean, this we're eating, we're business. Like, this is your neighborhood. And so I just really I've always felt it and thought it, but just in having the conversation with an actual candidate, it reminds me, like, it's so important that we engage and that voters realize when they, go all the way down the ballot, or maybe start from the bottom and work your way up, because your city commissioners, your sheriff, you're using a sheriff, your mayor, these are all folks that have say in immediately impacting your day-to-day life. And I agree with what you're saying, Derek. I think, you were a candidate made for me, but I just hope our viewers realize that your local electors are really, really important to your day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's actually the most important race for most people, and that most people don't understand that, because, like you said, it affects your day to day. So the president can only do so much that affects you, but the individuals that work in your city council or your commissioners are the ones that affect your day to day. Like you said, I think you said it really well.
Definitely. Well, I don't know if anyone has any questions, but what I would like to personally thank you for your time, Derek. Thank you for spending the time while you're out at the polls, working hard, beats the sweat. Really appreciate to sit down and talk with us. I definitely appreciate it.
I became a punk. I was getting bitten up by mosquitoes, so I ran inside my car.
That's okay. I'd also like to just thank you for your time today and all that you were doing. We're happy to support. We're happy to have you on the show. I will see you out there at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Again, I'll be there. But let's reconvene and talk about what happens on tonight's debate. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to watching it. I like that there's some control over the mic situation. So maybe we can hear of an actual policy or plan in tonight's debate.
Definitely. I don't think we'll get as eloquent answers as Derek has tonight, but we can hope. We'll try.
You guys,
thanks again, Derek.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I definitely appreciate it. I think that what you guys are trying to do and doing here, this platform is amazing, and I think we need more of it. So definitely, I hope you guys continue this and blow up so that everyone can be involved and understand that these things are important. These are the things that really matter, and I think it's important that we all play our role together, make sure that it gets achieved.
Definitely. I like the whole blow up thing. I can dig that.
Are we seeing Derek's website on the screen?
I'm having sex. I'm not going to make my.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so we wanted to share your website. So guys, you can check out at derekgetsitdone.com to learn some more. So please, if you have not voted already and you are in the Parkland area, please get to know Derek. You could talk to him, but check out his policies, what he stands for, and we'll see you at the polls.
Thanks again. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
But I think you're already a winner.
I like it.